Welcome to another episode of Flipping Miami. And today, I am your host, number one. Today, I'm your host, Raul Balufe. And today, I have a very special guest, Undrea King from Texas. And Undrea is a rock star, man. I mean, we met years ago, and we hit it off. He's a wholesaler. They do flipping. Now they're buying deals virtually. He's got Wholesale Nation. They have their own podcast. They do a badass meetup that they have tons of people. Actually, one of the inspirations for me starting my meetup. So Undrea and his partner Andy, but is not here right now. But dude, they're just some good people. They're doing a ton of deals, and I'm sure we could pick their brain and get some value on kind of what's going on, what they're doing, and see if we can impact some people. Dude, I appreciate you coming on.
Hey man, I appreciate it. Appreciate you for having me on. So to give it back to you, I met you when I first met you, and at the time I think you had a partner at the time or a couple of guys.
Yeah.
And I remember going back and I was like, hey, there's these guys from Miami. They're just killing it. We got to step it up a notch. And so I definitely appreciate you for the inspiration.
Dude, that's so cool, man. And that's a beautiful thing about like doing like the masterminds and being in touch with so many high achievers or people trying to achieve the best that they can be. And it just like inspires in its own little ways, you pick something, I pick some things from you, I pick some things from Rob and Seth and some of these other guys.
Right.
And it just forms like a nice little coalition of high achieving, if
right.
you will. So dude, Undrea, so I want to I know we did an episode a while back, but I kind of want to catch up.
Right.
What has been going on, man? What's been going on? And I know we're in Corona time, so things are a little bit weird, but
right.
What's been going on with you personally in the business as far as like, growth, contraction, expansion, like what have you kind of seen, man?
Yeah. For us, I guess since the last time we talked, we went completely virtually. About 10 months ago. And that's probably been the biggest change that we've ever made. It was a huge change just for our organization altogether. I don't know if anybody's ever gone virtual, but for the most part, you almost have to turn over your entire staff. And so for us, our staff that was with us, they had a hard time with the transition. Right. We traditionally had gone door to door, face to face, belly to belly, whatever you want to call it. We had done that for, 3 or 4 years. And to go from that to buying over the phone was just, it was a huge change and a shock for our staff. And we had a good staff, and the guys and, girls that we had as salespeople, they were great going to houses, but they just could not get it. And I get it now. Like a lot of the wholesalers are like, man, I can't buy over the phone. And it's, you just can't get the top deal unless you go face to face. And I had that limiting belief also. And, met with a buddy of mine, Nick Perry, and he's like, it's just a mindset shift. And that's what we did, right? We just had that mindset shift, and the team, unfortunately, couldn't have that shift, but we ended up hiring some new people to get us going.
Dude, that's, the virtual and the in-person thing, if you're listening to this and you're in the wholesale space, it's been something that's kind of been around for a little while. And there are people that have been doing virtual since the beginning of, wholesale time or whatever.
Right.
And I know we shared the same idea of let's go in person and let's do stuff like that. So now you're kind of shifting to virtual, and
right.
So are we, by the way. We're kind of hybrid right now just to kind of shift. What you mentioned your employees and the people that work with you, which is a real thing, by the way. I haven't really heard it that way, that people have talked about like the effects of the team that you did have,
right.
which is a real thing. What do you think is the biggest mind shift for the people, that the team members that you bring on, that maybe they have to adopt to get success in this virtual space?
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with like why we decided to do it. All right. Yeah. And then talk about, our team, and then, how we transitioned. But the reason why we did it is that about 3 or 4 months or so before we started trying to go virtually, we had started doing a lot of PPC. And at the time, we were just getting our butt kicked. Like a lead would come in, and we had traditional. We had the lead manager. Lead comes in, the lead manager gets the lead. They go and set the appointment, And then the salesperson goes out, and it was just like lead after lead. By the time we got there, it was done. Right.
Really?
And so yeah, the person had it locked up. And so on, I think it was, I forget what month it was, but during that time, our lead manager was out for a little bit, and I was taking the phone calls. Right. Okay. And so I remember it was a Friday. Guy calls in, head of house. The house was like, when he told me the price, I was like, man, I can lock this up over the phone. The price is where it needs to be. But, even me, I said, you know what? I got to follow the process. So I set up the appointment with my sales rep to go out like that following Monday. All right. He got ready to go out, and he said he called to follow up. He's like, hey, they already sold the property. Right. And after we just kept seeing that happen over and over again, it's like, we got to move faster. And it costs us a lot of money. Our PPC went through the roof. At one point, we were like $19,000 to buy because we were it's very competitive here in Houston. Yes. And if you're not responding to people at like 1, 2 in the morning and like, hey, let me jump on the phone with you right now and get it done, you just get killed. And so that was our biggest transition. Yeah, that was our biggest transition to signing to go virtually. And so you were asking about the staff, like what was the biggest thing? And what we realized is that we hired our staff. The people that we had were used to just going to appointments, and that's all they knew. They didn't take a lot of phone calls, right? We had a lead manager that was doing all the phone call work and setting the appointments. So all they really had to do was check their schedule and go to 2 to 3 appointments a day. They weren't used to, and then the only follow-ups they made were just the people that they missed or things like that. So they weren't used to doing a lot of follow-ups and phone calls. And we changed that and said, okay, great. You're going to start answering the phones, right? They're going to start going directly to you. Yeah. You're going to start setting your own appointments. And we noticed that they kept giving like excuses, and it wasn't anything bad on them. They just didn't know how to transition and do it. Mm-hmm. And they started having excuses like, I have an appointment. I set an appointment at 2:00. And they get there and it's nothing, right? They were just setting appointments that weren't real appointments. And then they blow their whole day. It's like, well, I had an appointment, so I didn't get a chance to make my phone calls. And it just spiraled out of control from there. And they couldn't make the phone calls that was needed because they were used to going out to appointments, and they just could not break from that. And so, with that, and talking to some of the other guys that transitioned, that's what they ran into also. And so we had to replace our entire staff.
Damn. And that's not easy. Easy. You guys had a big, I remember that you guys had some sales guys that were doing well for a while.
Yeah. Our sales guys were doing well. But like I said, we wanted to, we knew we wanted to be able to go to other markets and things like that as well. And we knew that if we can speed up the process of getting a contract, especially in a competitive market, then we'll do more deals, right? And so we couldn't get the buy-in. They wanted it, but they just couldn't. They didn't have the skill set to be able to do it. Yeah. And so we had to make several changes to be able to make it happen. We brought on what we call a virtual lead manager, a VLM. She's in Mexico, Tijuana. And she's been great, and she's phenomenal. She gets, she does everything, but she makes sure that everything's routing the right way because we still needed the position, but we needed the phone calls to go directly to the sales team. And so when we first tried to transition, we had the sales team like out and about, and then phone calls were coming in. But then we just went directly to a sales floor with our new people, and now they answer the phones directly. They lock them up over the phone. She's there to make sure nothing is falling through the cracks. Right. And so, she has a goal each month. Like, we used to miss things like missed phone calls and, things like that. And we don't miss any of that now. Right. She makes sure everything gets over to the salespeople, everything from drip campaigns that people raise their hand again. She makes sure that gets back over to the sales team so that they can follow up. So for her, nothing falls, through the cracks. If we miss a phone call, she's texting them, "Hey, saw you missed your phone. We missed your phone call." That kind of thing.
She's a machine, man.
Right.
But let me tell you, and Andrea can vouch for it. Nowadays, to make it in wholesale and be able to make these 6-figure money, to be machine like your team, and you as an owner or manager, you need to be tracking everything. Right. You need to have your KPIs in order. You need to have your team all rowing in the same direction. Undrea, and let me back up for a sec for the people listening. If you don't, if you kind of miss what we mean by virtual and in person, so basically wholesaling, the idea that you can find a motivated seller, you find a seller, you meet with them, or virtually on the phone, you can call them, you get their property under contract, and then sell it to an investor for a profit. So what Undrea is saying is, they used to be, when they would get the lead for a seller that said, hey, I'm interested in selling my house, they would go, just like us, they would go and meet with the homeowner in person and negotiate and try to get a deal, basically get the contract signed in their home, in their living room, in their kitchen table. Now, Undrea's shifting the business model and saying, hey, let's do this over the phone. So they're still producing the leads and saying, hey, getting the people that say, hey, I want to sell. But now the only thing changing is, instead of their living room, they're doing it on a phone call that then, probably has the same type of sales script and stuff, and getting under contract and selling that to the investor. So although it seems minor, it's a huge shift for people like Undrea that had a team and had things. Dude, Undrea, what do you think so far it takes to make the virtual model work? Like, what are some maybe key points you can give to some of the listeners that they're thinking of doing it? Maybe they're just starting, maybe they already have done a couple deals and they're like, I like the virtual stuff. What are some key things that you can think about to be able to make this model profitable, make sure it works, time in and time out?
Right. So the first thing is going to be the mindset. I think that's what held me back for a long time. That's when I hear somebody talk about it, they say the exact same thing. People are not going to buy over the phone. They're probably, I'll get bigger deals if I go out to appointments, and that's not so. Right. People will sell their house over the phone. They'll sell it to you with a text if they have to, right? They will sell their house. And so that's the first thing, is that you have to get get over the mindset. The other thing is the belief. You got to believe that it can happen. And that's all that was the biggest change, is being able to make that shift. The next thing is that, from a sales perspective, is that you have to, really the only thing that really changes is you're not seeing the person face to face. Right. And so you really have to train your salespeople on being able to listen, to verbal cues. Right. And so instead of seeing the person's face and things like that, you have to listen to those verbal cues. And then they have to do things also making sure you're smiling through the phone and make sure that you're friendly. But it's really into, we talk about listening when you go out to appointments, but when you're buying over the phone, you really have to listen at that point. Right. Because you have to build that trust. Right. Because, I was just looking at a quote and it talked about, I think it was Zig Ziglar that said that, people will listen to people that they like, but they do business with people that they trust. Right. And so you have to take it a step further and really build that trust and that confidence over the phone with them. And that's where that's how you're able to buy over the phone. Right. It won't happen in a 2-minute conversation. Don't think that this is going to be transactional. Right. You have to be looking for the problem to solve and then come with the solution. And that's how you get the deal over the phone. You just won't get it talking about price and numbers and things like that.
Dude, those are some really good tips. And no one has really formulated it that way and put in that 1-2 step process. You got to believe that it's going to work. Okay. Right. And if you don't believe, just, listen to someone like Undrea, I really locked up a deal over the phone this morning. It works. Okay. It's not, it's not easy. It's not, it works. Okay. There's a process that works. Belief is beautiful. I love that answer. And then making people are these sales, these appointments, kind of from what I heard, your salespeople are still taking these virtual appointments very serious and listening and making sure you're doing the process correctly, making sure that things are kind of, doing what you have to do. Right. As far as the appointment area and follow-up, I noticed, it kind of bounced around. I noticed on the virtual side, taking us about 3 calls to get this contract. Right. I think everyone might have slightly different models. What have you seen as far as let's say you get leads, set an appointment, how long are roughly your appointments on the phone? And then like, maybe briefly, what does your process look like after that initial phone appointment? Like how often do your salespeople contact them? And what do you think is really, really good for that?
Yeah, so we have a process for how we handle the phone calls. First of all, our salespeople have a minimum expectations of making 40 outbound phone calls a day. And so I'm not too concerned about the inbound, because the outbound will create more inbound because people will call back. But we saw that, if we're hitting 40 a day, 40 phone calls outbound a day, then each one of our salespeople are going to be getting anywhere between 2 to 3 contracts a week at minimum. Okay. And so the way our process works is once a lead comes in, the goal is to give, and we're tracking like times. And that's one of the issues that we're running into right now, is because we got a lot of outbound leads that are coming in, is the amount of time it takes us to get in touch with that person. Right. So we're working on bringing that time down. Our goal is to get to that person within 20 minutes. Right. So from the time that the lead comes in, but as far as our call process, once we get a lead, if we don't reach them that first day, then we have a process. So we call them every single day for 5 days. Right. And that's with texts and phone calls. Right. After 5 days, if we don't reach that person, we put them into our lead manager automatically goes and grabs them. It goes into a drip campaign where we constantly try to follow them up. All right. And then for our other leads, the people that we have great conversations with about buying their house, if they're not ready right now, then those we just set a follow-up call. So everything has to push forward. Everything in our system has to have when is the next time you're going to reach that person? Right. So if I talk to them today about buying their property, then when we look into our Podio system, then I need to be able to look and see, okay, when's the next phone call for that person and when is it going to happen? All right. And did it happen is the other thing, so that nothing's really left behind. And I think that's the key to all this is if you start letting follow-ups fall behind, you start letting leads fall behind, then you start wasting money. Okay. And so they just continue to call until that person either tells them, no, stop calling me, or they're ready to sell. Right. It's the way we work it.
Dude, like if you're listening to this, like you got to rewind that right there. Like, man, that what he said is gold, bro. Like, generating a lead is hard and expensive enough. Okay. Right. I mean, we both know that. So having some kind of process to make sure that you follow up with them, and you shouldn't feel bad about people every day. Like they reached out to you, and a lot of these people that are motivated or they're in some kind of financial trouble. Remember, these people are ducking and they're hiding from creditors. They're hiding from people trying to collect payments from them. So like, they might think that you're like a credit card company or some,
they're procrastinating. They're procrastinating, right? And so if we sit there and just allow it to happen, we're doing them a disservice if we don't call them, right? Our job is to solve their problem, right? And what's happening is those people that we finally get back a year later, it's not that their situation improved, their situation got worse. And so, and we allowed that because we quit following up on them, right? And so for us as wholesalers, that's our job. Get out there, solve the problem so that the seller can move on and have a better life. And so that part you got to take seriously. And, you talked about the follow-up campaign. Once we've made the offer and for whatever reason that the seller doesn't want to go with it right now, we drop them in a long-term follow-up sequence. At that point, they're just getting hit with some Podio. So they get hit with text, email, the slide broadcast is built right into it. So they just constantly getting hit on a weekly basis with information. And so we try to create that the same feel that we have when we did, a lot of direct mail follow-up, because we want the person when they're ready, that they call the person that's been bugging the hell out of them. Right. And we want them to call us. So then we get the salesperson off of that. We try to keep our salespeople where they're only talking to about 100 leads at a time. Right now, they're a little higher than that, but about 100 leads at a time that they're working. Well,
yeah. And that's a really good, we use something really similar, and something that Undrea is, if you notice, that's a big chunk of the reason that these people rush it. And I was speaking to Gary Boomershine actually, and he mentioned some numbers about follow-up in the wholesale space. I think it was like 90% of people don't follow up or something like this. I have it in my notebook there somewhere.
Right.
Well, the story, man, nobody follows up. And so if you follow up and you create a little system to send them text blasts, email blasts, call them, whatever, you're going to be so ahead of the game. It's not funny. Like,
right.
Got that lead 2 months ago. Okay. And I've called her 3 times, and had conversations with her. I mean, and I'm sure Undrea can come up with, hundreds of stories or tens and tens of stories of, oh, we got that lead a year ago. That lead 6 months ago. Oh, that lead came in 4 weeks. Like, it's just going to happen, right? Like, one of the numbers that stuck with me, only 3% of revenue comes from the first 3%. Right. It's like nothing, right? It's zero.
Yeah. And I think, Gary, he was the one that said that 80% of your deals will come from follow-up. And so, when we looked at that as well, like the last couple of deals we've gotten have been deals that we just been following up for over a year. We had one, last month or maybe the month before that had been like 2 years that we had been following up with this person. And it was a text from our follow-up sequence hit that person up, and it said like, hey, market conditions are starting to change. We may be able to offer more for your property, but give us a call. The guy's like, hey, what's the offer? And we end up getting the property. Right.
Wow.
And so it's whatever it takes to get that person back on the phone, and he was ready to go. And so, like I said, if you're not following up, they always talk about the fortunes and the follow-up, but you got to do it. Right. And you got to have a system for it. That's the main thing.
It's like Andres says, like, it's the follow-up is not some hoorah stuff that we're just saying to sell courses or sell books. Like, it's the absolute truth. You got to follow up. So you've been at this for a while, and now you're going virtual, and you've done a bunch of deals. Mm-hmm. What are some habits that you've kind of created over time that you feel have kept you positioned to be able to manage, run a team, create a good income? What are some good habits, that like you're still nowadays that maybe you started or maybe you've developed over the times? Because I'm a strong believer that it's all about the repetitive actions you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that really get you. It's even the smallest things ever. So I don't know, what are some of those that come to mind, some of these habits? Yeah. So,
I'll start personally and I'll talk about what we do for our business. So for me, just on a personal basis is that, it's kind of like if you ever read Traction, I kind of set up my personal life the same way, right? I set up goals for the year. I set up goals for the quarter. They're going to accomplish those goals for the year. And then that breaks down to what am I going to do each day? And now, I keep a journal, like, what am I going to do each hour? So I plan out each hour so I can get the most done. And so, for me, I have a morning routine that I do from exercising, reading, journaling, meditation, that I do to get my mind right, but it's also to get my day set up. So I know, okay, what do I need to get knocked off my list for the day? What are my main things I need to get done, right? And then for me, what that does is at least it gets me a little sense of control of what needs to get done, right? And I can feel like I accomplished something versus putting out fires all day, right? I can say, okay, I got these 3 things done. That's a victory, for me, right? And then at the end of the day, it's kind of reset, right? I set up the next day. I go through the things that I was gracious for and things like that, and I finish out my day, right? And then for our team, is that we followed the traction model. But one thing we brought on, and I think I heard this from one of your buddies down there, Alex Pardo, is the huddle, the daily huddle. Also picked it up. There's a book. What's the book that it came out of? Scale. I think it's what it's called. Scaling up. Yeah. So it came from the book Scaling Up, but we started implementing the daily huddle. And it's just really it's a 15-minute. We don't go any longer than that, but 15 minutes. And we go through, what were our victories from prior day? Yes. What are the things we're working on for the day? Top priorities. And then what's the thing that's holding us back that we need help with? And that helped us with communication. And that's one of the issues that we had was communication. And so, that's helped us. And we do that Monday through Friday, along with we have our regular, full staff meeting on Tuesdays. right? And just doing that alone keeps us on track and make sure that everyone knows exactly what they need to be doing.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, I mean, that daily hustle, we implemented that. It's a game changer. When you could chat with your team every day. Look, running a team is not easy, no matter how good, how bad, how smart, how whatever. Like, running a team is always going to be a bit challenging because you can never really make people do stuff. It's just human nature, it's psychology. But the more you can talk to them and get a feel for what's challenging them, what are the things they're proud of, what are the things that they won in the day, dude. What do you feel that has done for the business?
It's been a game changer for us because that's what we, Andy and I sat down this year and we looked at over the years, like, where were we the happiest and where do we feel like the team was the happiest? And it was all about us spending a lot of time on culture. And that's what we looked at this year and said, you know what, we're going to spend a lot of time on culture and getting deep into our team members' personal goals, not just their business goals, but what are their personal goals? So we set each one of them down. It's like, yeah, these are your business goals, but what do you want to do personally? How can we help you with that? Right. And, just doing that, we started seeing them, we became more of a family at that point, right? We started putting games, we started putting ping pong in here. Before it was kind of stale, boring office, right? And just outside of here is like a cemetery, so we're not sitting by the water and things like that, right? So it could be kind of a stale environment. But we have video games, we have dartboards, we have ping pong, so things just to keep it friendly and fun, but also doing things outside of the office and giving away incentives and things like that, and just whatever we can do to keep them excited, but also whatever we can do to be able to help them also get better. Whether they stay with us or they go somewhere else. My goal is that when they leave in a better place and they're a better salesperson, better person when they go on to their next thing.
Wow, love that, man. I hope you got a good deal on that office in front of a cemetery, man.
Oh yeah. That's probably the only reason why we're still here.
That's funny. Like that. You're listening to this and just starting to hire. You're already a team. You might have a massive team. You might not. But man, the tips that Undrea gave about the culture and stuff, it's absolutely real. At the time, they're team members or they might be employees or whatever you'd like to call them, but they're people. Right. Yeah. They're people at the end of the day, and they have goals, they have feelings, they have emotions, they have things that are going on in their personal life. They have things that drive them. That's not money, right? I mean, there's I think Daniel Pink is a good author of what's that book? It's a book, and it basically talks about the incentives of people that is not money. And there's so many things that drives humans. It's insane. Yeah. But Undrea, I think you've done a pretty good job of understanding I think if we create this family feel, they probably work a little bit better, work a little bit harder, and not only for you, but for them, because they're going to feel like they're reaching their goals. Yeah.
And that's really the main thing, right? Because we've gone through that part where we had that stale environment and it felt like everyone was just, working alone and they, and no one really got to know each other, or maybe they had little cliques, right? Yeah. And that's not a good thing, right? If you got a business where you got little cliques going on, then watch out, right? Because you're probably going to have a couple of competition coming down the road here pretty soon. But it happens, right? And so but if you really get to know them, they know that you're trying to help them, then they all will work and they want the team to win. Right. They'll go above and beyond. They help each other out, a lot now. Our sales team and disposition work, hand in hand. They're constantly helping each other. So it's been great.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Yeah. Having a team it's a beautiful thing. It's not easy. Things we're going to leave and start their thing or whatever, but it's just a game, man. It's a fun game to play. So, I think you gave some really good tips. So something that's always with you and Andy, for the meetup, right? You have a really cool meetup. So tell us about the meetup, why you started it and what purpose is. I mean, I do one month up a month for free. And surprisingly, the question I get very often is, you gave out this information, why do you do this?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a great question. I don't know,
Yeah.
no, just kidding. But, why did you do it? Or why did you guys start the meetup? And like, what does the meetup look like now? And what are some of the cool things that both your attendees and you get out of that meetup?
Right. So that's a good question. So we started kind of the same way like you, right? We said, you know what, we wanted to be able to give back, but we also saw that there were some issues going on in the wholesale, business, right? We started seeing like, there's you got YouTube and people learning, and some people are teaching people the right way, some people are teaching people the wrong way, right? And we started seeing it, and so we said, you know what, we want something to where people can come to. They don't have to pay us for it. It's free. We're going to give out exactly how we run our business, the ethical way of doing wholesaling. You want to know from the A to Z. And we really, we started with, we looked at MMA. We wanted to focus on teaching them about marketing. We wanted to talk about acquisitions, right? And we also wanted to look at mindset, right? So what was in that? We started with mindset. So mindset, marketing, acquisitions. And then we went to MAD, which was dispositions, right? Because at first it was like, man, if we give them everything, then they're not going to come to us, because we made JV deals with them and things like that. And what I found is that you just help people, it'll just come back to you anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And so each month we do it on the first Monday of each month. We got this Corona thing going on right now, so we hadn't been able to have it. But the first Monday of each month, we've been going strong now for a couple of years. We're typically anywhere now. We've been seeing anywhere from 80 to 110, 115 people, at our meetup. And basically it's a room full of, for the most part, wholesalers. We've been getting buyers and flippers and things like that in the room. And we just pick a topic and we just go through it. And so, what it's helped us with is number one, because anytime you're teaching something, then you're just getting better at it. And it's also reminding us that, hey, you know what? Let's make sure we are still doing that thing that we're talking about, because you're having to go back. Sometimes when someone says something and that's been, maybe they just got started in wholesaling, but they have something that you used to do, and you're like, man, I remember we used to do that, right? Yeah. So it kind of jogs your memory of, man, let me make sure I'm on top of this, because I know that we used to do it. Let's make sure that we're back on it. And so when you're teaching it, it just sharpens me. And then it allows us to get stronger at it. And, of course, we've done deals, we've done JV deals and things like that have came our way. I can't say that it's all come, it's been like a big push. We got an apartment complex out of it, things like that. But, for us, it's just continue to to help people get the name out there. When you look at things like podcasts and things like that, you kind of set yourself up as the person that knows what they're doing, right? Yeah. And so at that point, more opportunity will also come your way, I think, if you continue to give the right information. Yeah,
man, that's a good answer, because do you get asked that kind of often? Like, hey,
we get that all the time, right? And people like, man, y'all give away so much information, and I have people like, we have to, usually have to pay $20,000-$30,000, and we tell people right off when we, at our meetups that, we paid, 6 figures to be able to stand in front of the room, right? Because we paid for education, and there's nothing wrong with education, right? But it's our time to give back, and we just go and we give them literally everything. This is our systems. This is how it works. This is how we talk to salespeople. When things change and we start buying over the phone, this is how we do it. So there is no like gray area of how to do it. We just give it all. Right. Yeah. And, it's kind of like the go-giver, right? It'll come around to you. It'll come back to you, right? You just keep giving, and then you can only help but to receive, right? And you have to receive it in order to give it, and it just keeps going over and over.
No, so it's beautiful. Like, it kind of like you mentioned, like, it kind of like teaching people, it kind of like keeps you grounded, right? When you hear about the newer people starting out and they're like, oh, I went door knocking, and, the sellers told me this, it's almost like, it keeps you like in that like hustle stage, and it's very like kind of liberating, because some of the words that you say to the people attending is so powerful and so important to them to hear, and they might avoid making a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 mistake just from attending a free night on a Monday.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a valuable thing. And there's something about it, like, and yeah, you get deals out of it. Like, we've hired people out of it. Like, our top realtor from our brokerage came out of the meetup, and we've made a bunch of money together. We pass on listings to her. She does listings. She helps out with our buyers. So there's so many good things that can come out of the meetup. And if you don't have a skill right now and you're listening to this, to like be in the front of the room, attend the meetups, because you can meet so many cool people there. I mean, there's been deals within our little meetup, and we have 30 to 40 people that come to that. So imagine going to a meetup like Undrea's, that there's 80, 100 people. Like, you can make so many friends there. Like, it's exciting, man. That's
right. That's the key right there, what you just said, right? Because there will be some people that show up like his church, and they, after the service, then they just leave, right? And that's not what this is about, right? No. It's just like what Raul just said. It's called networking, right? And you really have to get in there and get to know the people, because those are the people that are gonna, they're getting started just like you are. That's how Andy and I got started, right? Mm-hmm. We were a part of like a mastermind together, but it wasn't just showing up and getting the information from the people who were running the mastermind or education course and then going home. It was taking time, both of us, getting to know other people and getting to know other, what they're doing in their business. And we started helping each other. And you say, you know what? We were competition for a long time. He would send more mailers than me. Sometimes I would send more mailers to him. And he said, you know what? How about we just do this together, right? Instead of competing. And so you never know who's going to be in the room sitting next to you, right? They're not your competition. You want to collaborate and start working together, because if you're just getting started, you're most likely the new generation that's getting ready to get started in wholesaling. You don't know who that person is around you. That person that's sitting next to you could be your next private money lender. They could be the next hard money company, right? Mm-hmm. And you're good friends with this person, or they could be the next title company. You don't know, because everyone starts and so get to know them, talk to them, find out what their goals are, and see how you can help each other.
Yeah, bro, that's key, man. I just I can't stress enough how amazing it is to be around people that are just thinking roughly the same way you are, right? Mm-hmm. No one's going to be exactly the same. No one's going to have the same exact as you, but there's just something so powerful about just talking to people and connecting with people who are trying to start their own business, or maybe they're working for somebody else, but they're trying to start investing in real estate on the side. Maybe there's something powerful about being around people like that, man. It's just inexplicable, really. And I feel like meetups like that help people come together. So like, you're doing so much for the community. Undrea, and you mentioned that you guys are now buying, because you started in Houston, right?
Right.
That was
right. So Houston. We started in Houston. Yeah. And go ahead.
So I was gonna say, so what does your business look like now, as far as like where you're buying and things like that?
Yeah. So when we started going virtually, immediately we expanded our market. It just because Houston is, for those who are not familiar with Houston, it's Texas is the large state, first of all, right?
Massive.
We're in. Yeah. And Houston is huge itself, right? And just to go around our new beltway is like 180 miles just around Houston, right? So that's like 3.5 hours if you just go around 99. And so Houston itself is a huge space, which is, maybe there's a reason why we've done well. Hopefully we continue to do well in this COVID thing, because we're so spread out from each other. We have so much space. But we also have these counties around us that we were kind of working, which were like another 1.5 hours or 2 hours away from Houston area. But for us, that's still considered local, because we're used to traveling far distances. But our salespeople didn't want to do that, right? Our salespeople, when we were driving and going to appointments, they would kind of like talk their way out of that, like call the seller. Hey, Mr. Seller, I'm coming out to your house, just checking. So how serious were you about selling this property, right? Before I drive 1.5 hours out to your So that started changing, because we didn't have to go out to appointments, and we immediately started buying properties in these, these smaller counties, right? But we started getting great deals because we're buying over the phone, right? And so now we switched it now to we're buying all of Texas. And so anywhere in Texas, now we just got, we have 2 in Louisiana that we just purchased, just got a contract. And so our thing is that, we want to be able to be nationwide, and it started here in Texas. We said we can do it here because it's just like being in another state. Now we're starting to do it in another state, and so we'll continue to go from there.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, and that's a really good example about dreaming big and continuing to go for what you want and your goals and stuff. And it's very practical, man. Think about it. Like, you got salespeople, or even, let's say yourself, like, to get in the car and drive an hour and a half to go see a house and meet with the seller. You could get the deal or you could not. Okay. There's typically a 1 out of 10 chance you get it, whatever. All the numbers are different, but let's say roughly 1 out of 8 chance that you're going to get the contract signed that day.
Right.
What we saw was a lot of the times we wouldn't get the contract signed there. We'd end up getting it like a week later over the phone. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, that's usually what happens.
So it's like, man, like, you start thinking like, maybe the first meeting could be over the phone, and it might take 2 or 3 phone calls, but hey, what if we could do, instead of 2 appointments a day, what if we could do 8 of them a day?
Right.
And those kind of questions start coming up. But,
yeah. And for us, what we're seeing is we're seeing about 17 leads per contract is what we're looking at buying over the phone. And like you said, the main thing is that, when our salespeople were going out to appointments, that would blow their entire day, right? If they had to go out an hour and a half or so to an appointment, and like you said, they get there, don't get the appointment, then their day is blown. Like, they can't go anywhere else. They definitely can't go across town to the next place. Then that one has to kind of set until someone can get there, and the process just slows up. And when you're buying over the phone, really the only thing you need to know, if you know how to run comps, we use the MLS in the Houston area. And then outside of Houston, we use a combination of PropStream, Zillow, and Zillow to run comps in the smaller areas. But if they know how to run comps on MLS, they'll know how to run comps on. They may have to learn the system. PropStream has been really great for us in helping us with that. And then of course Zillow being the other one to help us get the number right.
Undrea, and are your new guys that you guys hired, are they in office, or I know your leads manager is in Mexico. It's funny, right. Our leads manager is in Mexico as well. And are they in office, your new sales guys? Yeah.
So all of our sales guys now, we work here. Everyone works here in the office. Okay. Besides, we have 2 dispositions. They're kind of, one is 100% outside. She's our head dispositions. Okay. But the other one, he's kind of in and out. Manny, he's kind of in and out. He does a lot of the getting the pictures. He's kind of the boots on the ground, or he's contracting people to get pictures. He's going out to properties. He's also he does a lot of like, if he's in the office, he's doing a lot of like guerrilla marketing to build buyers and build buyers lists, and looking in MLS and looking for cash buyers and PropStream and things like that. So he's constantly building cash buyers and contacting them to get the deal sold at the highest amount.
Which is extremely, extremely important nowadays, to nurture your buyers, get a ton of new buyers, keep sending them marketing. It's just so important now. Good cash buyers are going to rule the wholesale world nowadays, and
they already are.
Yeah.
We see that now, right? And, it may become, or it's already moving into a buyer's market because of that. Yeah. But every single deal that we've sold since we started this, since this COVID thing been around, have been to 100% cash buyers, right? I'm not talking about private money lenders. No. I'm not talking about, they have cash money in their bank, right? Yeah. When COVID-19 hit, we had, 15 or 20 deals or so under contract. But the ones that were like, the first 5 getting ready to close, we almost had to change buyers on every one of those. Right. Wow. And it wasn't the buyer's fault. It was that, they didn't know that their lender wasn't going to be able to lend on it. Or they started changing terms. We started seeing hard money companies changing their terms. Someone that was 8% and 1 point went to 14% and 4 points. And oh, by the way, have 3 months worth of, I need 3 months up front, right? So it's like, damn, I might as well fund it myself. Yeah. And so that buyer who was just kind of working a job and doing this part-time, they couldn't do it, and they couldn't afford it, and they had to back away. And so we replaced all those people with cash buyers. And that's really how we've been moving our properties now. It's just strictly to cash buyers. And that's why we're making a run. I think that marketing, you want to market for sellers, but if you're not spending a portion of that looking for new set of cash buyers that are not necessarily on podcasts and things like that, seeing 70% rolls, then you're going to be kind of missing the boat. Right. Yes. You're going to have a hard time and then eventually start looking at creative financing and things like that as well. But for just strictly wholesale, you need to make sure that you're refreshing your buyers list. Don't think that the people that were buying from you 6 months ago, some of those guys are holding their cash and waiting for that day to come to where they just start buying everything up. Okay. Yeah. So definitely continue to build those buyers lists.
It's a really good point, man, Undrea. That's advice that you guys can implement like ASAP. If you're not thinking about that, you absolutely should. And if you have no idea how to find buyers, I mean, there's plenty of videos and stuff, and whatever.
I'll give you a quick ninja tip.
Yeah, give us a quick ninja tip. I like it.
Quick ninja tip. So if you, number one, you can just pull up the MLS. Right. But and we pull cash transactions. That's what we were doing before. We just pull all the cash transactions in the area from the MLS, and then we were skip tracing them. But now a lot of services that are working with like IDI, they've gotten the format set up where they can skip trace LLCs now. And so we'll go in, we'll pull we don't care what we're pulling, whether it's the buyer's name or the LLC. We used to take those out because it was a little bit harder to it was a lot of work to find the person. But we'll pull up something like PropStream, pull up the entire area, we'll skip trace it. And then those are the people that we're going to be calling. Right. Wow. And so overnight, I mean, you can take, in an area that has, 1,000 cash buyers, you can scale it down to the type of property that, single family property and things like that in the area. You get all their information, and then skip trace it. Right now we use Lead Sherpa. It takes like a minute or so to skip trace the LLC, and now you got their phone number and email address. And now you can contact him and you start building your buyers that way.
God damn, that's good, man. So do you use IDI to skip trace the LLCs or Lead Sherpa? Sorry.
We use Lead Sherpa. We used IDI, but you get the bigger discount if you're like selling the data, and we're not into selling the data because you have to use a certain amount each month. And I don't do well with someone telling me that I have to spend every single month to get it and to get the discount that I want. I just go with somebody else and gotcha. Use their service and, get, 12 cents or so per skip is good enough. If we can get it cheaper, even better. Awesome. But that's where we're at.
Cool, guys. Like that is really good. So there he gave us some websites. So IDI, probably if you're going to do a big amount, Lead Sherpa, if you're going to do, kind of skip trace, maybe, 150, 1,000, whatever, I would use Lead Sherpa. And man, absolutely think about doing that. Dude, Undrea, that's good stuff. And you guys have to, if you're really in the game, you have to rewind this episode and listen to it, because the amount of things about the virtual and about the team building and then about buyers and about the meetups, like that is literally things that can make you a different level of a wholesaler. Honestly, it really is. Dude, Undrea, last kind of question or two before we wrap this thing up. Dude, where does your mind go when I tell you $100 million? Like, how do you get there in your mind?
So how do I get to 100 million in my mind? Right? Is that the question?
Yeah.
So you caught me at a time where I've just been rereading the Millionaire Next Door, right? Okay. And so for me, it's we look at who are the millionaires that are out there and who are the people who are the affluent and wealthy. And now it's for me that the mindset's kind of changed. How do I get to 100 million? Right? Is number one is I need to be I don't need to be driving a Lambo. That's the first thing. But, being frugal, watching your money, watching your expenses in this business, right? Making sure your profit margins are good. Don't overextend yourself and have these big, huge teams and you end up not taking money home. And ask me how I know. Right. So that you're making money in this business. And then from there is, what are you putting that money into? You got to get that money to growing. Yes. Right. And sometimes that may take you having to partner with someone else. This over the past year, we partnered in with a 32 unit apartment complex that's doing well. We were all in about 600,000 or so. We got an offer on it. At about 1.4 million. Yeah. But the thing is that it's going to spend money and it's going to spit cash off anyway. We might as well keep it, 5-6 years and then sell it. Right. And so it's not about, wholesaling is great. And that's where you make your cash, and it could be a predictable cash, but that's highly taxed. How do you take that cash and invest it so you can start making more money? Right. And I think that's how you get to the 100 mil and be happy at the same time and not killing yourself on a daily basis.
Yeah. That's a very key point, because when you got big goals, big aspirations, sometimes you can get lost in the sauce of shit, I'm not there. Oh my God, I'm so far. Damn, this guy has this guy has that. But you got to really take a step back. Everyone's got their own journey. Yeah. A very simple quote that I think everyone in this world knows is easy come, easy go. So if things are easy to get into your bank account, probably is a good chance that the world might, whatever you believe in, Buddha, energy, something about the world and karma, it might be an easy go. So if things are taking you a little while, embrace that this might be good, because the best things in life don't come easy, man. I mean, you've been doing this for a while. You've probably been knocked down 100 million times, knocked down 100 times. So that's good stuff. And Undrea, so let's say, kind of last thing, I want to talk to the newer person. Let's say, Trump wiped out your shit, man. You ain't got nothing. Right. And you got maybe $300 or $500. How would you get your first deal nowadays to be able to pay bills and sustain yourself? You got a couple $100 in your pocket.
Right. So a couple $100. So now I'm running into an issue where I can't really go get a list. And so then at that point, I go back to the basics, how I got started. And I'm going to put some gas in the car. And if I ain't got no gas, I'm going to start driving. Right. I'm going to look for neighborhoods that in our area, and you can pick it for wherever neighborhood that you're in, but I'm going to look for neighborhoods where houses are 1970s and 1990s, because I know that's what landlords love. All right. I'm not going to just pull into the hood, because that's going to be every other house is going to be vacant, and they're vacant for a reason, right? Because no one can clear title. And so I'm going to go into the neighborhoods where in Houston, where the road may be a little bumpy because the trees have gotten a little bit, trees are big now and the roots are starting to grow into the road. They probably got a little foundation problem, and I'm going to just start driving and getting those houses, and I'm going to start calling those people, because if it's today's time, right now, that's the house to go after. The vacant house in those neighborhoods, especially with this COVID-19, people don't see a use of, why would you, if they're telling you that, kind of save your money, then why would you be wasting it on a house that's not producing anything, right? And you're going to have that guy that says, or a girl that says, you know what, I'm going to fix up and make it a rental one day. Well, I think those people now are changing their minds. You know what? Let's just take the cash, and we can always buy another one as the market goes down. We can buy 2 more, right? So I would be out there driving right now, getting as many leads as I can, and then finding those people and calling them.
Hell yeah, I love that, brother. And that's, what the beautiful thing about that strategy you just mentioned is that shit is never going away, bro.
Right.
That is just not going away. I mean, and that is the strategy the least amount of people like to do, because to drive around, it takes time. It's probably, once you have a business, it's a little tough to do that, and it's hard to scale it and whatever. Yeah. But if you're a one-man show and you got a couple $100, you have a car, or you got, your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother has a car, borrow the car, tell them, I'll put $50 of gas in the car, start driving, get a piece of paper and a pen. And when you get back home, you skip trace them. You could probably skip trace them. And I think IDI charges you maybe 90 cents each or $1 each.
Right.
So for, $50, you get 50 homes. You call those people every single day until someone answers and figure it out.
Right.
Beautiful strategy.
That would be the way I would do it. And what happens is that you never know what that first deal may be 5, 10, 20, 30, but that can, that would change everything, right? I would say, of course, pay yourself first. And then from there, let's get the marketing going now. Now you can spend a little bit more time, leverage your money at that point and buy a list and things like that and grow your business out.
Love it. Dude, Undrea, this has been a fucking awesome episode about really detailed tactics, mindset, about the virtual stuff. It's been really, really good. How can people, in pretty much all over Texas now. I think he's based out of Houston, but let's say anyone else, how can people find you and learn more about you and your company? Where can they go and reach you, man?
Right. So they can hit me up on Instagram at the Wholesale Nation on Instagram. You can also put my name in, and I'm the only Undrea King, spelled Undrea King. If you Google that, you get me. Not that I'm Googleable, but it's just the name my mom gave me and the way she spelled it. That's just
man. I like to think she thought about it. When she's like, when is going to be this website, and my boy is going to be
right. So yeah, that's the best way to reach us. If you want to join the Facebook group, you can go to the Wholesale Nation as well. We have a Facebook group where we kind of do the same thing that we do in our meetup. We give helpful tips. It's wholesalers helping wholesalers in that group, but you can also join the group there. But yeah, that's the best way to reach me. Gotcha.
And if you guys are over there in Houston, reach out to them. I'm sure they'll help you guys out if you have a deal. You got a buyer or something like that. Right. Good, dude. So, Undrea, I appreciate you for coming on, man. This has been a lot of fun. If you guys are listening to this on iTunes or Spotify or Stitcher, you can watch the video on YouTube on Raul Bolufe or raulbolufe.com. Any last words before we wrap this thing up?
Man, I just say, of course, thank you for having me on. I know the listeners really appreciate you and the work that you've been doing to help them out and helping them get started in their business. And I'll just say to the new person, I know that we're in uncertain times right now, but the main thing is do not freeze up, right? You will get nothing done just sitting at home, watching Netflix, watching the news. It's time to go to work. If you wanted to build your business and you saw this as something you want to do, this is the time to get out there and work, right? The opportunity will come. And a down market and things like that, that's where a lot of millionaires and billionaires are made, right? If you're sitting on the sideline and not working, then you don't give yourself a chance to get there. So get out there, work, go get some deals done, and it'll be a life changer for you. You are the man. I love that. It's such a great thing. Dude, guys, get after it. The time is now to start doing stuff. This is not some hoorah stuff. You will literally lose to people like me and Undrea if you don't do anything. So you make the choice. Either the money goes to us or it goes to you. Or it could go to both, right? There's abundance in this world. So, I appreciate you guys. I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace, everybody.